Level up your hunting game and join the cause. Help preserve small-town Texas hunting culture and become a more successful hunter by learning the best ways to squeeze the most out of your budget and precious time out in the field. Welcome to the Bandit Podcast. Here are your resident bandits, Richard Kinchlow and Jimmy Byrne.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Bandit Podcast. Corn Bandit back here with you as I am, as we are, me lately. Hope y'all are doing well. Life is good, treating you well. Thanks for clicking on our little podcast. We certainly appreciate it. Got a good one for you tonight. I'm actually pretty excited about this. You know, we often do the what we like to refer to as the weekend in reviews. Typically when we're out there hunting and whatnot, because again, we are blessed in the fact that we can go to Rancho Bandito, virtually anytime we really want to. So doing that, we get a lot of practice. We see a lot of things, so on and so forth. And, it's exciting for us to be able to come back and report what we see, what we're doing, that way for, other folks that maybe can't get out to their place as much. Maybe they can take some information and they can make the most of their weekend. So, I had a hell of a weekend this past weekend. Got a lot of good stuff done. The off season, of course, a lot of folks get real sad, and then naturally so. No more deer to hunt, no more ducks, dove, whatever it may be. But I'll be honest, I love this time of year. I love February, March. Hell, I like every year. I like every month in the state of Texas, of course. But February and March are still super active as far as hogs and varmints are concerned. So we've got a little bit of that to discuss, but we'll start off this little session talking about trapping, in particular, trapping raccoons and possums, and even a skunk if they were to come into the feeder pen, around, again, like I just said, around a feeder pen. So obviously for those of you who are listening from out of the state, in Texas, of course, we always talk about the fact that we've got the ability to feed, both high protein deer pellets, cottonseed, corn, whatever it may be. And typically a lot of fellows will, enclose their feeders with some fences, whether it be bull panel, hog panel, whatever you want to call it. Or in our case, we've actually used 5-strand barbed wire, obviously to keep the livestock out of there, so on and so forth. So, and in doing so, of course, you've, obviously the fence, any type of fence isn't going to keep the vermin out, the coons and the possums and stuff. The raccoons in particular, they are just absolutely lethal when it comes to emptying out protein feeders. I mean, think about it. They got nothing else to do. And those little feed bandits will sit up there on your protein feeder and they'll basically clean you out. So one of the products that we know and love and tested, and it's just fantastic, are the coon hoods, of course, and those are available on our website. We'll do a little link below, but Hayden and the guys at Coon Hoods, a phenomenal product, works extremely well, and seriously, they work, okay. But along with having some sort of anti-coon device, you also need to do some trapping too. I mean, let's face it, that the coon hoods are great, okay, and again, they keep the coons off your feeders, but having a good trapping program, again, not only affects the outcomes there at the feeders, okay, but remember, a lot of that waste grain that gets on the floor, the deer can do, or the turkeys can eat that, but now the coons are going to end up getting it. So the other thing is that the raccoons, the possums, the skunks, they eat eggs too, okay, not just turkey eggs or quail eggs, but songbird eggs, so on and so forth. So again, all the vermin of the world serves a purpose, except for the Congress and the Senate of the United States, of course, President Biden, those types of folks who don't really serve much purpose, in my opinion. But hey, but they still need to be managed. We try to do that with votes when it comes to the pathetic politicians. When it comes to the vermin, we use traps. And one of my favorite traps is going to be, they're referred to as the dog-proof traps. And, I won't go too much into that. We've got some blogs that we'll post about, or that we can repost for you all if you're interested in those types of traps. But they're basically a little I don't know, looks like a mini tennis ball can, I guess. And it's got a little trigger mechanism in there so that when the coon sticks his or her hand in there to get those delicious 9 lives, Mr. Mittens kitty food out of there, it will, the trap will pop and it will hold their hand there. So they're incredibly effective. I've been using them for years, and man, they are just awesome. So that was kind of the trap of choice. So let me kind of set the stage for you, if I can, kind of where we were trapping. So this particular feeder pen is one that's kind of out there. Okay. And in fact, it was one of the feeder pens that we tried to do the Feed Bandit test on late last spring. If you recall, we have the Super Feed Bandit trough that's got the four little compartments. Okay. And it's just a trough. There's no protection from the rain or the vermin, etc. And we tested Antler Max, Purina's Antler Max, West Feeds from West Texas, and then we also tested Double Down. And of course, we were aiming to see, which would the deer prefer, okay? And what about the non-target species? Well, at this particular feed pen, we got nothing but raccoons, and there were actually 4 of them, and they were there every single night. We didn't get a single picture of a deer because they were super aggressive and they just destroyed it. So, yeah, I remember that. And so we're talking to my father, and who owns Rancho Bandito, and he says, "Hey, let's get those traps over there at this particular area, and let's see what we can do." So, what's really cool about this particular area, again, we got a nice feeder pen, okay, and the feeder pen backs up to it's kind of an old hay field, okay, but it's grown over. It's been grown up for probably 20 or 30 years. So there's some decent hardwoods in there. Obviously a lot of cedar and mesquite, okay. But then over just to the east, and I have a nice video that I say it's nice. I don't know if you can hear me in the gale force wind, but over just to the east of this feeder pen is a hardwood thicket. And it's got a creek going through there. Lots of big pecans and live oaks and red oaks. It's just ideal raccoon habitat. So even though I have not actually witnessed raccoons coming out to this feeder pen, obviously I know they're there, and just kind of putting a little your little thinking cap on, you can kind of figure out, okay, most likely these coons are going to be coming from where's a good denning area, where it's coming from these hardwoods. So kind of my strategy when it comes to setting these traps kind of is as follows. I don't like to put, 15 traps all around the legs of these feeders. Okay. That's not going to get you very good results. I have always been of the opinion that, if you've got a protein feeder, put one right there. And typically you got a protein feeder 15 yards away, 10 yards away, you got a corn feeder. Put a trap there, okay? And then the majority of your other traps, go around your feeder pen. You can see where these animals are coming out of the fence. And of course, the deer, the coons, the hogs, they're all going to use the same trail, okay? So again, animals we talked about before. Animals are relatively lazy, okay? Path of least resistance. They're just like humans in that way. So what we did was I went out there and I found 2 primary entryways, if you will, into this feeder pen coming from that hardwood thicket area. So I said to myself, man, I know the coons are using these trails. So I went ahead and put a trap there and a trap there. Now, something that I did differently there is I actually have a little fish oil, okay? And it's really not as bad as you think it is. As far as the smell is concerned, because I got a horrible gag reflex, and anything that's really stinky, I'm gonna be yakking, especially if it's hot and I'm hungover. So thankfully, I was neither. But what I did was I got a little of that fish oil, and I didn't actually put it in the trap, but I kind of put it just a couple drops, okay, just kind of in and around the trail there, a little on this side of the fence. And we're talking drops here, and a little bit on the other side of the fence. And so I knew with the wind and their sense of smell that, they could probably pick that up. So that's what I did there. So now a little kind of recap real quickly. At the protein feeder, I got a trap. At the corn feeder, I have a trap. along the fence in two main areas, thoroughfares, if you will, coming into the feeder pen. I got to trap one spot. I got to trap another spot. So this time I went further back. Okay, so this time I'm actually in the woods, and there's a little bit of a cross fence there. And so I put another trap right there because, again, I can see a well area where they're coming underneath the fence, and then they would head for the other fence, and they'd be in great shape. So I put another trap there, and then I kind of went down by the creek, and I kind of put a trap in there. Wasn't expecting a whole lot of that one. So pretty excited. Felt really good about what I had done, and honestly, I was really looking forward to the results. So ended up wake up next morning and like a kid on Christmas, and got in the pickup, if you will, and ran down there to see the results. So here they are. And again, I have a nice video, or I'm going to be putting together a video on this so it makes a little bit better sense. First trap by the creek was cleaned out. Amazingly enough, you'll see raccoons stick their hands down there, and sometimes the trap won't fire. I don't know exactly what I did. The trigger was pretty sensitive because I set it off. So I don't know, chalk that one up to bad luck. So moving out a little bit further, we got that other kind of where that cross fence piece is. Okay. Well, I went to check that trap, and guess what? That trap is gone. What I had done is I had accidentally connected it to one of the, they call it center stay posts. Okay. So you got your typical barbed wire fence, whether it's barbed wire or goat wire, whatever it may be, you're going to have what's called fence stays. Okay. And they're just little, they're pieces of cedar that, are going to be, in between your main posts. Okay. And so with those, typically they're buried in the ground. Well, I don't know. I guess I was tired. I don't know what I did, but I accidentally connected the trap wire to this fence. And of course I went back. I'm like, my God, where is the trap? Completely gone. No sign of disturbance. I don't know what the hell happened. Well, that's when I lifted up that stay, and that coon got trapped and he just took off. So obviously you hate for that to happen because the outcome of that's not going to be good for the coon, but we'll go ahead and chalk that up. So that's going to be number one. All right. So then moving towards the actual feed pen. Okay. So this is where I was hoping I would have really good results, and I was not disappointed. In both of those areas that were, again, remember those little trails I was telling you about? They're going underneath that fence to those feeders. Guess what? I got a coon in one. I got a coon in another. So that is 2. So that gives us a grand total of 3. Okay. Moving into the actual feeder pen now on the protein feeder. Guess what? I got one corn feeder. I got another. That is 5 raccoons taken out from that area in one night. That is going to make a difference. So I was very, very happy with that. My father, the landowner, was even more happy about that because right now I do not have coon hoods on this particular protein feeder. It's something I'm working on. So really until then, I'm at the mercy of nature here. And you can see where these coons have gotten on this Outback feeder, and they'll sit up there and scoop the protein out to their buddies. And it's cost my dad a fortune. So 5 coons in one sitting, that is phenomenal. So I am pumped about that. I really am. That's one of the best trap settings I've had. Now, I'll tell you, I chalk it up to the fish oil. I think that was tremendous, and I'm going to keep using that. Never used it before. I do use dry cat food when it's cooler. Unfortunately, in the summer, the ants are all over it, so I got to switch back to corn, which I think kind of sucks. It'll be interesting to try the corn with the fish oil, though. So we'll see about that. But again, got a nice video. Probably going to try to make another video this weekend. Going to go trap another feed pen. But I really like doing this because you go on to YouTube and there's tons of videos about trapping. There's tons of videos about using dog-proof traps and whatnot. But there aren't a lot of. They're not. In fact, I don't know if there are any, and maybe I'm not searching good enough. But there are no videos on there about trapping feed pens in the state of Texas. Okay. And that's what we do. With this kind of a recreational deal where a lot of folks, maybe some folks are using the fur. I don't know, but Anyway, so I hope that's going to be informative, and I hope you all really, I hope you'll check that out. Again, busy weekend. So the second thing I did was, I created some fish habitat. We talked a lot. We have talked about fish habitat, not as much as I'd like to though. And, in Texas, we have these ponds, right? Or up north, y'all call them ponds. We typically call them stock tanks or tanks for short. And, these tanks can be anywhere from 10 acres to a half an acre or whatever it may be. So I've got a particular little tank on one of our pastures that, I'm going to go ahead and say I can't remember what I said in the video. I think it's an acre, maybe a little bit smaller. And it's unfortunately, it's pretty seasonal. But just for the hell of it, we threw in some crappie they were doing a fire sale. The fish truck was doing a fire sale to our local feed store. They're like, hey, we got these crappie. We got to get rid of them. So my dad was like, sure, why not? And they basically just gave it to him. We threw them in this tank. Knew we had some bait fish in there, not a lot. Crappie are super aggressive. They are ferocious feeders, so they're really not the best for the tank. And of course, that would be our luck, right? Because those damn crappie they're phenomenal to eat. They are so good. So anyways, we threw some crappie in there. It's always been my intention to go in there and add what? Cover, okay? Because what bait fish we do have in there, yeah, we've got some moss and some weeds and stuff like that. But again, it's seasonal, right? So when it dries up and then fills back up, those poor things are out in the middle of nowhere. So here's what I did. This was kind of a little experiment, if you will, for folks that maybe that are landlocked. Okay, yeah, I've got a boat I could drag out there, but I'm really freaking lazy and I didn't want to do that. So went to the hardware store, my local hardware store at a small town near the property, and picked up some of those cinder blocks. Now, the cinder blocks I picked up were I call them the single cinder blocks, okay? They're not the one that have the two holes. This is the one hole. And I did that on purpose because I knew I was going to have to throw these cinder blocks, okay? So what I did was I said to myself, I need to make some cover, okay? And, of course, you just can't throw brush into a tank or a pond, whatever you want to call it, and expect it to just sink. It just doesn't do that way. It's buoyant, okay? Now, eventually it'll sink, but unfortunately, that's just not the way it does. So, or way it works. So, in the hill country, Central Texas, we are blessed, quote unquote, cursed really with what I call the Texas turds or the cedar tree. Okay, invasive species, suck up a lot of water, blah, and the list can go on forever. We've talked about it a million times. What they are great for is they're great for fish cover. Okay, so I got a pair of loppers. And I went out there and I cut probably 20 or 30 of these trees, and they're probably, I don't know, 3 foot tall, something of that nature. Okay. And they're multi-stemmed, right? So it's not like it's just you can just like a Christmas tree. There you go. Just like a Christmas tree. Okay. So, obviously you don't want to cast in there because you're never going to get your lure out there. All right. But they are phenomenal when it comes to fish habitat. Okay. Now, sure, those needles are going to fall off, but you still got all the little billions of little sticks. So what I basically did was, and again, I made a video on it, is I got those cedar trees, okay? And I kind of got some loppers, hand loppers, kind of trimmed the bottom of where I made the cut. And then I got some of that nylon string, okay? And I basically tied 4 or 5 trees to this little cinder block, okay? And then I grabbed all the trees and the cinder block, got to the water, and I just threw it as hard as I could, okay? And again, I'm just experimenting here to see how it would look. Well, sure as hell it worked great. First of all, the trees, they flowed to the top, okay? But remember, they weren't floating around everywhere because they're connected to what? They're connected to that little cinder block. I am kidding you not, and I hope you can see it on the video. I kid you not. When I did that, I already had fish in there. I had some bait fish in there, and while I was making another one, I had 2 crappie come up, and they were checking it out. They're like, "My God, look at this!" So, talk about instant success. Okay, so again, super cheap project you can do to increase the fish habitat in your pond or tank, and you'll be helping the rancher out because again, nothing grows below a cedar tree for the most part. So the more cedar trees you cut down and make good use of, the better it is for the farmer or rancher that if you're leasing the property. So that was kind of chore number 2, and again, it worked out real well. So I'm on cloud 9 right now. I mean, this is very rare for everything I planned to actually go as I planned it. So I'm a happy camper. That night, I said, you know what, let's go for the trifecta. Let's go out and see if we can get a hog. And so I bought a Tacticam. I got at the end of duck season. I didn't have a lot of luck. Well, I didn't shoot a lot of ducks. Okay. And I said to myself, I'm going to put this Tacticam on this AR-15 that I've got, 223, and I'm just going to throw it on there, see what happens. And so, talk to my father, who is a pigaholic. Okay, he hates pigs, he hates hogs, he hunts them every time he gets. Okay, and he's got all this night vision, all this fancy gear. And he kind of puts Predator from the 80s movie to shame with all his technology and weapons and his just a sheer desire to kill pigs. So, but so he was telling me, they really hadn't been hitting the feeders very much, so on and so forth. And one of the things I was kind of noticing while I was out there, and again, I hadn't been there since January, is that we have not had spring green up yet. Okay, however, I can definitely see some areas where we're definitely get a lot of greenery, and so I thought to myself, God, it was been so cold for the really kind of all of February, and we're finally getting some green stuff coming up, and we have that huge freeze. I bet you they're tired of eating out, per se, like at the feeders. I bet you I can catch some in the transition. I bet you I can catch some, rooting up a pasture that's greening up real good. What the hell? I'm going to give it a shot. So, and this is something we've talked about over the years. If you're tired of hunting in the blinds, your blinds that you got, get out, man. Just get out, sit underneath a tree. Kind of treat it like turkey hunting. So I backed up one of our ATVs underneath a big oak tree, and I'm watching this area it's a good transition area. Okay, it's a kind of a green meadow. It's full of mesquite trees though. So I know that unless they're right there in front of me, I am probably not going to have a shot. The other thing is that, history is on my side by virtue of the fact that, we see hogs there a lot. So I said, this is a great way to spend the evening. So that's what I did. And sure enough, much to my surprise, and as good as that day was going, I shouldn't have been surprised, right? But I had, I don't know, 8 to 10 hogs pop out, probably 75 yards away from me. And it's still to this day, I'm like, man, this just does not happen to me. This is so cool. So I fire up my Tacticam, and I put a bolt in the chamber, and I sneak up on these hogs. Okay, and again, we've talked about the pigs. What were the pigs' best defense? What's their sense of smell? So the wind was in my face. It's perfect. And truthfully, they really hadn't been harassed all that much in that area. I almost feel like they come to the feeders, the traps, different ball game. They seem to definitely get a little bit more weary. So they ended up just sitting there feeding, and I just was watching, just enjoying the show. And I said to myself, okay, this is a real good opportunity for me to maybe maybe take maybe try to take a few. Okay. So I had a couple of those, a couple of those hogs kind of slip out there into the open. I was looking for one that, for a couple that were cut off from the herd, so that I could shoot at these. I could shoot at the ones on the left closer to the brush, and then get these as they were coming in. So that's basically what happened. Again, I got a great video, but I waylaid into these hogs. I think I probably got off 6 or 7 shots. I know I killed one for sure, probably killed 2 others as well. So another successful night. And again, hey, I did outside of a feeder. It was a wonderful, beautiful night. So that is a real win-win for me, not being in the blind. And of course, took out another pasture plow, as I always like to say. So again, great weekend. A proof once again that they can be productive and just have a real good time during the off season. So we'll be trying to do it again this weekend, and maybe early next week as well. So we got a little spring break action coming up. So be looking for spring green up to come. Find some more shed antlers. I saw a couple of bucks that still had antlers, which was crazy. And you could tell they were good and white, and they're about to fall off any day now. But that seems a little bit late for me. I don't ever, well, I can't remember seeing a deer in our part of Texas with antlers on still in March. So I don't know. That's crazy. I don't know what that means. If any of you guys know, please let us know. I'd be curious. So anyways, that is it. I hope you all learned something. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that this little podcast took you away from whatever's bothering you. Whatever's, just a nice little retreat from reality for a while. So anyways, thank you all again for listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll be back next week. Take care and support your local feed store.
Thanks for listening to the Feed Bandit Podcast. If you like what we discuss on the show, be sure to sign up to our email list to get even more killer hunting ideas, tips, tricks, and exclusive deals on innovative hunting gear and services delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up over at feedbandit.com or simply by texting the word bandit to 33777. See you on the next one. And remember, support your local feed store.